This video is going to highlight the expectations for the peer review evaluation process that is due in week 7. So it is a two-fold evaluation process. The first is going to be, you're going to be assigned in a group of peers and that you are responsible for watching the presentations and you're going to be evaluating them. You can watch any and all of the presentations from week 6, but you're only responsible for giving feedback to the peers that were assigned to you by your instructor. So let's just say you're in a group of 5. That means that you have 4 peers, because you're not going to evaluate yourself, 4 peers that you need to find the presentations in the discussion forum that's in week 6, watch the presentation, and then you're going to, as a peer response to each of those peers, going to provide a meaningful feedback that is constructive and comprehensive, where you really are showing them or describing what you found to be the strengths of the presentation and the areas that can be improved. You don't have to give any additional peer responses other than what you're assigned, but you can feel free to give any kind of feedback you want to any of the presentations, but you're going to be held responsible to the ones that you are assigned. And you'll want to do that by the Sunday at the end of week 7, by 11:59. So follow your course schedule and syllabus for those exact due dates. So that is the first part of the peer review, and they're going to review your presentation likewise. The second part is you're going to be given a peer review evaluation form. So as you're watching the presentation, there are different aspects that you're going to be evaluating, and you're going to give them a score, and that then would be uploaded into the Dropbox for these review forms by the Sunday of week 7 at by 11:59 p.m. So going down to the description for this assignment, it does show that it is twofold. So that you're going to be assigned a group of peers, you're going to view their presentations in that discussion forum, and then you're going to provide feedback that is meaningful, constructive, and comprehensive. Then you're going to fill that graded evaluation form, and you're going to score them on those different aspects of their presentation, and you're going to submit that into the Dropbox in Brightspace. So don't put your feedback into that Dropbox. The feedback itself goes as a peer response, and likewise, you're not going to upload the evaluation form in your peer response. That goes into the Dropbox. So just to be clear, the direct feedback goes in as a peer response. The graded scoring or grade goes into the Dropbox in Brightspace. Then you, as an evaluator, will then be evaluated by your faculty or your instructor on how well you did in giving back that feedback. Was your peer responses professional? Was it constructive? Was it meaningful? Did you follow the model that is in week 7's lecture folder? And then we compare that feedback that you gave to the grade that you had filled out on the evaluation form to make sure that there's a correlation there, that they are fair and appropriate scores given the feedback you provided. So what that means is, if you are giving feedback in your peer response and you're telling that person that they did a fantastic job, you just love their presentation, you love their poster, you have very little to offer for way of improvement, but on the evaluation form that you submitted, out of 64 points, you only gave them 50. That equates to like a 66%. It doesn't match. You give them glowing accolades in your peer response, but then where it matters most in the grade, that's where you had really dinged them. So if you're giving them a really low score in a section, there should be some kind of feedback offered on that as areas of improvement. If you give them perfect score in a section, and I'm not talking about just like the title and that they knew how to label their poster board, but say you really thought they did a really excellent job in the synthesis section, then that's feedback you should be offering them. So it really should have a direct correlation between the feedback you give, whether it's the strengths or the weaknesses, and the scoring you give in those same areas. And that's how you are going to be evaluated by your instructor. So going over to Brightspace in week 7, there's the lectures. Let me open that. And the very first lecture is called Supportive Feedback to Peers. And this is the one that describes the model that should be followed when you're giving your feedback or your peer responses to the peers you're assigned to. So make sure, it's not even a 9-minute video. Make sure, though, you watch this before you attempt to give your peer response feedbacks. Then, there is reading here that on how to give and receive feedback effectively and things like that. So if you don't feel very confident in what you should be giving as feedback, the sources between the lectures and the readings can help you there. But under the learning activities, this is the peer evaluation form that you're going to be using. So when you're looking at the appearance of your peer's poster, make sure you put the presenter is the peer you are evaluating. This is not you. You're going to put their name here so that way you don't get them confused as to who you're evaluating. Did you find the poster overall visually appealing? 0 being the least that you found it appealing, 4 being the most. So the 4 is the best grade, 0 means it wasn't done or it was done extremely poorly. So was it visually appealing to you? Give it a score. Just if you gave it a 3, put a 3 in this box. Did it have good organization and a logical flow? And then you're going to grade that. When you looked at the context, was it easy to read? Was the text large enough to read clearly? Was there too much content in sections, or was there not enough? So that's going to get a score. Then how did they use the space of the poster? Was there a lot of what we call white space or dead space? Was it way overwhelming, like it was hard to follow? Their text, did they use good contrasting colors between the background and the text, so that the text was easy to read? Sometimes they will use like a light background, and then they use a light font, and it's really hard sometimes in areas to read. But is there a nice dark text against a lighter background? Is the color really overwhelming? Is it distracting, or is it a nice compliment? And then do they use graphics, and if they did, were they appropriate? So give that a score. Then you go look at the actual content on the board. Do they give it a title? And I'm not talking about evidence-based practice project poster. These are supposed to be projects that you are proud of. It should have a good title, and it could be the same title they gave in their paper, but it should have a formal title that is properly formatted. Their name should be very clear. Remember, in APA format, you do not include credentials, so no RNs, even though you are RNs. In APA format, even if you were a doctor, you would not include your credentials, and then the affiliation. Who are you representing, or who is this peer representing? So in this case, it's the college, and so you would use SUNY Brockport. Very similar to the setup of your title page is how you're going to set up your poster. The one thing that is different about a presentation as opposed to a paper is a professional presentation. When you are presenting and disseminating any kind of scholarly work, you would also include the logo of that institution or that affiliation. So if it's for school, it would be the school logo. If it's for work, it would be the work logo. So in this case, you would want to they should have a SUNY Brockport logo. And is it well centered, or is it well located? Is it easy to see? That kind of thing. Give that a score. Then for the clinical significance of background section, do they include enough content to make the main points about their background very clear? Is it a full, almost like they copied and pasted straight from their paper, or is it clearly, is it concise enough to get the point across, but not overwhelm that section with too much content? And then you're going to give, and this should have citation, because this is information they had gotten from their credible sources, so there should be citations here. Give that a grade. Is their research question clearly stated, and is it easy to locate on the board? It really should stand out what their research question is, and is in proper PICO format. So that would be a score. Then for their search strategy, which is the methods of this kind of a project, because this is kind of like a little literature review. It's not systematic because there wasn't a collection of all possible studies done on that topic, but it is like a mini literature review. And so the methods of the study would be the search strategy. Was it clearly defined? What databases they used? What keywords they used? And what articles were yielded? What their inclusion and exclusion criteria was? So that it's very clear how they came about finding their evidence, and give that a score. Then looking at their evidence, a synthesis. So what results did they find from this search? This one should not be appraisal tables. If they copy and paste the appraisal tables on there, they should lose points. This is a synthesis, and again, it's not a copy and paste from their paper. It should be main bulleted points of the main ideas, the main themes, the main commonalities, with citations they found from their evidence. Do they have sections on patient preference and values? And do they explain how this can inform their projects and their recommendations? And they give that a score. And then the recommendations themselves, it should be very clear what recommendations they are interested in proposing for their unit, their facility, their setting, what have you, and what the implementation plan would be. So that would be a score. Do they have a section where they're applying the change theory to their projects and really defining what the main key concepts for the change theory and how it applies? And that would be the score. And any areas in the paper that required citations should have citations as well on the posters. There should be citations for the synthesis, citations for the background, and citations for the change theory. And then did they have a conclusion where they made it very clear whether their assumptions were validated or not and what they learned from this process, and you give that a score. Then you're looking at those citations and references. The references should be the first initial response or reply to the post. When you're looking at citations, are they properly formatted? Are they in those areas that have to have citations? If they cite something in the patient preference and value section, something that they found to support, that's fine, as long as they also have a reference. So if they have 5 or 6 very different citations, then there should be 5 or 6 full references on that initial post. If they have 8 citations and only 5 references, that is considered plagiarism. Same if they have 3 citations and they have 8 references, that's considered plagiarism, and they should score low in this section. If they didn't properly cite, then they should lose some points here too. So this calls on you understanding the proper way to cite and reference as well, and you should by now, in this part of this program, know how to properly format citations and references. If they don't have that initial post with the references, they should get a 0 here, because that is full plagiarism. Okay, now the quality of their actual oral presentation. So did they look professional in the video? Were they obviously prepared, meaning they did not need to read directly from notes, they did not read directly from their paper. Nobody should be reading directly from their paper, but they're prepared enough to speak in a manner that they can look at the camera and just use their poster as an outline. And then what's their voice quality and the amount of enthusiasm? Did the way that they present their information really show the passion they had in their topic? Did it keep you engaged? Was it, did they read directly from the poster, which can be very, very boring, or you could tell that they put a lot of thought in what they wanted to present? Were they actually kind of monotoned and lacked energy, where it was almost boring? Or were they really hyper, enthusiastic, where it was almost overwhelming? So gauge how clear they spoke, how well they spoke in enunciation, and if their enthusiasm was appropriate for somebody who was engaged in their research, and give them a score. Again, make sure you put in who they are here, and please, out of courtesy, add up the total points. You're only going to be reviewing 3 or 4 peers at the most. Your instructor, if each section has 15 students, and they're peer reviewing 4 students or 3 students apiece, they could add up to 40, close to 40 different forms for your instructor to sort through. And if they have to add up on all of them, that's very time consuming for them. And so, out of professional courtesy, please add up your total that you would score that you would give that person. And also, when you save it to your computer so that you can upload, save the under title with their last name first. So if you did this for John Doe, it would be Doe evaluation form or something to that effect. Because again, we take everybody in that assigned group, we take the feedback, the scores that you each gave, and we average it together with a score that we would give that student to give them their final grade. And if they're all listed as evaluation forms 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that means we have to go through and click through all of them to find John Doe's. So it just makes it the grading on our end a little bit more fluid if you can save it under their last name, and then we can click into each of the students in that group and just find Doe, and find Smith, and find Jones, and find, et cetera. It just speeds up the process for the faculty, so it's much appreciated. And so that is the evaluation form, and then you're going to drop it here in the Dropbox, and you can drop them all at the same time. The Dropbox is set up for unlimited submissions, so you can submit all 3, 4, or 5 of your evaluations forms depending on how many you were assigned. And that's, remember, due on a Sunday at the end of week 7. And then you're done. That's it. You just wait for your final grade. So if you have any questions about the requirement, just remember that where you're giving your peer response is actually in week 6 folder, where you had uploaded your, this is the lectures, where you had uploaded your poster board presentation. You find the peers that you're assigned, and you give your peer responses to directly to their presentation, and they can read through them themselves, and they'll be giving you feedback in return. But if you have any questions, please reach out to your instructor, and if you're still confused, you can reach out to me as the course coordinator. But I wanted to tell everybody that congratulations on getting to the end of the program and finally being able to graduate. I know that the faculty are very proud of you. You should be proud of yourself as well.